I'm saying to someone who is listening right now, don't give up on those goals that you have,
No.
regardless of where you've been and what you've done. That is in the past, and it's in the past for a reason.
Believe it's over. You feel pushed aside, perhaps overlooked for a youthful mind. You're released to shine. Those incarcerated, believing life's unkind. Your mistakes are a thing of the past. Just have a clearer mind. Believe in yourself. Knowledge and wisdom. It's not about your age, but attitude. Believe in yourself. Knowledge and wisdom. You're released to shine. Believe in yourself. Knowledge and wisdom. It's not about the charge nor what you've done.
Welcome to another episode of the Release to Shine podcast. I am Megan Wade, and today I'll be discussing with my friend and colleague Finding Purpose Behind Bars, Stories of Resilience and Redemption, where we look at stories and experiences of individuals who were incarcerated and have done much with their lives after their release. So here we go as I welcome my friend and colleague. Hi, Elliot. How are you?
I'm well, Megan. How are you?
I am well, a little on the chilly side here in Florida, but hey,
The irony.
I'm telling you.
Yes,
But
yes,
we're good, I'm warm. I'm getting
yes.
warm. I'm getting there. Yes. So how are you today as we discuss this topic, this interesting topic of
I'm well as well.
what comes to mind when you hear finding purpose behind bars?
Well, I believe that in finding purpose, the word focus comes to mind. A purpose is the reason why someone does what they do. When you have a purpose, you have a reason for doing whatever it is that you're seeking to do. And when you establish what it is you want to do, the ability to be able to focus in on the specifics of how to accomplish your purpose come into play. When a person is in a carceral state, despite what they have done or not done to be in that position, being able to focus or being able to really concentrate on the things that they need to do to accomplish their purpose are very important, very significant. Being able to focus, being able to zero in on things that you need to accomplish to realize your purpose behind bars or incarcerated.
It is not easy, however, for one to find purpose in a place that is meant to strip you of your dignity, stripping one of their dignity, their self image, taking all of that away. One has to find resilience, and as you said, find that purpose.
Mhm.
What do I want out of this for myself? Why am
Yeah.
I here? What good can come of me being here? Those are some thought provoking questions that individuals have to ask themselves. We have one person that I like to talk about, Chris Wilson, who found purpose behind bars. Chris embarked on a journey of self discovery. He was angry at first. He was serving a life sentence and he met someone in the prison who was also serving life imprisonment. This young man that Chris met was busy teaching others to pass their GED. He encouraged Chris, and eventually, Chris joined his class. After passing that GED, it stirred something within him, and he created what is called a master plan. What he did was to create goals that he wanted to accomplish. And each time he accomplished one of those goals, he checked that off and sent that list, a copy to the judge who sentenced him, a copy to his grandma, and a copy to his attorney. And he kept a copy. Talking about a vision board, we've often heard about the vision board and how it changes or transforms one thinking when you actually see your goals written before you or plastered on a board that you have created. You are trying to achieve all of those goals. And that is what Chris did with his master plan. That was his vision board.
Hmm.
Instead of serving that life imprisonment, Chris was released after 16 years.
Wow.
The impact of that vision board. I'm saying to someone who is listening right now, don't give up on those goals that you have,
No.
regardless of where you've been and what you've done. That is in the past, and it's in the past for a reason. Create that vision board. Whether you use photographs to show where you want to go, or you have a written plan as Chris did, create your vision board. I heard someone say put the vision board on your phone because you must turn it on. And when you turn it on, that is what you're going to see first. That
Mhm.
vision of those goals that you have. What do you think about that, Elliot?
Very simply and initially put, the Bible says, write the vision and make it plain. And when you are able to visualize different aspects of your
Mm,
purpose, there is an implicit sense of hope that it provides you, especially when you are in some extreme carceral circumstances. Being in jail or prison, it's not designed to give you hope. It's
mm-hmm.
not
Yes.
designed to give you optimism,
Mm-hmm.
as I'm sure Chris Wilson did, hence his earlier release.
Mm-hmm.
You have to draw from circumstances and intrinsic motivation, things of that nature, to be able to articulate
Mm-hmm.
growth. One thing that you mentioned about Mr. Wilson in terms of his aspirations, he made a list and sent it to various stakeholders,
Mm-hmm.
which not only said to them that he was serious about accomplishing uh,
Mm-hmm.
his purpose, whether it was known to him or not. He created unofficial accountability partners
Absolutely.
in his success.
Mm-hmm.
When people are incarcerated, there may be a perception that they're put in jail or prison and forgotten about. Well, Mr. Wilson made sure that people on the outside didn't forget about him, and they were able to understand that he might have been in a carceral state, but he is doing things to better himself despite his circumstances. I think that was a tremendous leap of faith that he took, and maybe he didn't realize that him him creating accountability partners would also create allies in these people. Sending this type of information to the judge and the attorney on his case. Whether he sent it to his mom or not, mom is always in your corner, give or take. If I could make an assumption about most families, your birth mother just tends to be a built-in ally, if you will. But having the judge and attorney brought into the fold of being an accountability partner, whether Mr. Wilson did that by design or not, it demonstrated his resilience in saying, yes, I'm in here for life, but I'm still going to make the most out of my life no matter what happens. And he did that presumably in faith, and it paid off on his behalf with a reduced sentence, if you will, from life to 16 years. What an accomplishment! I applaud him and certainly encourage him even in this day. That's some awesome, yeah, what an awesome testimony of resilience.
I agree with you 100%. It speaks to seeing that personal value within yourself. I am worth something, regardless of what I've gone through, regardless of where I've been, regardless of the mistakes that I've made. I have personal value.
Yes.
And then that strength begins to show forth. We looked at self discovery. Now let us look at education and skill development.
Mhm.
How do you see the role of education programs helping those who are incarcerated?
Education is a significant help in self development, but it's also important in terms of realizing that purpose. I worked in a corporate setting where I learned
Okay, good.
a
Sorry.
company's mission statement is their purpose.
Yeah.
And the mission statement, again, is why we do what we do. And the
Mhm.
vision statement is simply a statement of where we want to be in the future. Education serves that mission as well as that vision. It serves the mission or the purpose for right now, what I need to do for right now to continue to build myself, and then where I want to go when the time comes, where I want to be in the future. So the role of education in a carceral state is very important. The Bible also talks about redeeming the time, so making the most of your time. Don't just sit idly and wait for opportunities to come to you. No one knows you as an individual. So, in an incarcerated state, you want to be able to continue to research, continue to self develop and self build, and you want to demonstrate a growth just on an individual basis, regardless of what's going on around you. There's a saying that goes something to the effect of you want to make sure that you are doing great things even when no one's watching.
Mhm.
When you're in a carceral state, no one's watching, no one's directly paying attention. But when you get the opportunity to be seen in that regard, you want to be able to demonstrate that you have evolved
Yeah.
into a state of growth from where you once were. Education sort of leads the way for progress.
Mhm.
And so taking advantage of educational programs to self develop is critical
Mhm.
by far.
It is. And that is what happened with Chris. He made use of all of these educational programs and he educated himself. And according to him, when he accomplished each goal on that master plan,
Mhm.
it did something to him. And he was quite pleased to send it to these individuals. None of them responded. Perhaps there was some doubt within them that this guy is going to be able to achieve all of this that he planned. But
Hmm.
he made it happen because of that self determination. We have seen from statistics, and I'm looking at some here, Elliot, which I'm going to
Hmm.
share with you, that educating oneself in prison, when one is released, it is rare when they recidivate.
There are adversities within
Mhm.
that carceral state that you go through, but once you get out, there is a set of processes and procedures that you go through. And aside from those things that you need to do once you get out, there are about five critical areas where formerly incarcerated people encounter uh, difficulties.
Mhm.
Housing being the most important of
Mhm.
all of the things I'm about to mention. Housing is very difficult to get once you are released.
Mhm.
Housing, then there's education, there's employment, there's healthcare, and I
Mhm.
would even say the right to vote. Independently, those things are difficult in of themselves, but they sort of overlap or are interwoven with each other. If you don't get housing, then it's difficult to find employment. If you can't find employment, then it's difficult to get housing or even secure education. There are some institutions of higher learning that consider background checks with regards to whether you are admitted to a school or not. Without a job, you can't get health care. These are all things that are tied in with each other. At a bare minimum,
Mhm. Mhm.
education is critically important, especially behind bars, for self growth and self development.
Absolutely. Well, from what I'm seeing here, 46% of those individuals who receive education do not reoffend.
Yep,
Education is important, but the
absolutely.
education must be relevant to what this individual need to do. The skills that they are learning must be relevant to help them to earn on release. There's no
Yes,
point in learning something or being taught programs that will not benefit these individuals after release. They need to be able to earn.
absolutely.
A research I did last week shared that educators were returning between 5 years. I'm not talking about those who serve under 5 years,
Mhm.
but those who have experience from 5 years to 40 years. Can you imagine 40 years? There were people
Mhm.
who had been in this system teaching for 30 and 40 years. They say they were looked down upon by their colleagues. They are not treated with respect as they enter these prisons to teach these young people or these men and women.
Yeah.
They're treated poorly by the security officers at these facilities, but they continue to go. And the reason they say they continue to go is interesting. It is because these students are so hungry for knowledge. That's every educator's dream, to have
Yeah.
students who want to learn. And that is what they have found with these individuals who are incarcerated. Hungry, wanting to learn more. But educators have challenges getting anything copied in the prisons. They have to copy them before they go in.
Mhm.
They're dealing with all sorts of unnecessary atrocities as they're being processed to enter. And their very own colleagues look down on them. So they're going through a lot. And when you go through all of that and spend 30 years and then continue to add on to those 30 years, 40 years, and you continue to go back to teach and work with individuals who are incarcerated. It says something.
Just having experience as a classroom teacher,
Mhm.
I remember some of the simple adversities that I faced, just respectfully pushing aside prison education, just being an educator and trying to make things work when they didn't want to work, whether it was financially providing supplies for my classroom. There's a budget that teachers are given by their schools. It varies from school to school, but teachers are given a budget of certain monies at the beginning of the school year to be able to spend on their classroom. And I remember years ago, the first check, if you will, I got for supplies for my classroom was about $250. And the following year, it went down to about $200. And I remember teaching with a music teacher who uh, talked about receiving a budget of $600 at one point for his classroom. Maybe it was because it was music discipline, so there's maybe more musical instruments that need to go towards that budget, what have you. But it's not easy being a teacher, period.
No.
So to couple that with an educator who decides that they want to educate in jails or prisons, I can only imagine the adversities that they encounter in trying to practice altruistic measures of trying to teach persons who are incarcerated and just trying to jump through the hoops and hurdles to get to that point. I can only imagine just by the practice of being an educator in of itself, it takes a special person and is a calling. But to be able to do that in a jail or prison system, you are a person who is a very special person by far, and you're doing a very important work by far.
I agree with that 100%. And
Mhm.
as we know, these prisons are full of people whom
Mhm.
dropped out of school and struggle with literacy.
Yeah,
Many of them are not able to read.
yeah. It's very surprising to me how there is a great disparity of folks who struggle with literacy issues when it comes to schooling. So I imagine that educating in prison systems or jail systems is a
Mhm.
much needed service to those who are incarcerated.
Now, let's look for a moment on creative outlets and expressive arts. The
Okay.
role of the art form, music, and writing sometimes appeal to someone who is locked away for a long time.
Hmm.
Some of them have skills that they didn't even realize they had until they started writing. They're trying to make good use of the time that they have, and they're creating music and writing stories. Some have succeeded in this regard. Christopher Wilson is an author of the book The Master Plan. Get into that form of writing. This helps with personal growth and a sense of purpose when one
Yes.
is able to create. There are some prisons that allow even podcasting, not podcasting, but radio. They allow their inmates to have access to radio, and they have this radio station where they broadcast their programs. Any comment that you'd like to share on education and prisoners?
It's needed and it's important. and it is an outlet or respectful way of escape to be in terms of your physical body being incarcerated, but not allowing your mental faculties to be incarcerated. Education is a way to vicariously get out of that carceral state and also help yourself.
Mhm. I recall Nelson Mandela saying that his body was incarcerated, but not his mind. And
Correct.
I'm reading one from an article here. It says it stands to reason education provides opportunities and options that are not available to those with lower education. We have over 600 colleges that are involved in the prison education system, colleges and high school programs that are involved in educating those who are in a carceral state. And so
Mhm.
we trust that the public will be more empathetic towards giving second chance to those who have made mistakes, some who were incarcerated in error, case of mistaken identity, that we will give each and every one a second chance. In fact, many of us need more than a second chance in our lives. We used up that second chance a long time ago. Some of these students, incarcerated students, were interviewed from one of these articles that I've read. And
Mhm.
what they say or encourages them to keep learning is the respect that they receive from the educators.
Every person is unique as a fingerprint, so their life experiences are as unique as the persons who carry them. We don't know what any one person has been through in life. We
Mhm.
can just imagine that if you end up in jail or prison, there are some who may be in there for some very petty reasons or what have you, and
Mhm.
others who have encountered, whether by their own doing or by circumstance, have encountered some horrendous life experiences that we will never know. But to be able to take that and to go into a classroom setting where or environment where their thoughts, feelings, perceptions, etc., they are acknowledged and
Mhm.
valued. I think that is an essential motivator for them being able to say, wow, when I speak up, I'm being listened to and I'm being heard. And
Mhm.
what an excellent way to continue to foster that growth and development in an individual by valuing them through respect. Yes, it's an awesome opportunity for people who may not have had that opportunity in the past to take advantage of and benefit from and add value to.
Yes, I agree. And then we have an author of the article Andragogy in Prison is Patrick Philippe Conway, and he's the director of the Boston College Prison Education Program.
Okay.
The article was published in 2022, and that is a good article to read. We have another article, Making Meaning Reflections on the Act of Teaching in Prison. And
Hmm.
then here we have another, Does Prison Education Impact Offender Conduct and Recidivism? Why prisoners pursue adult education and training. Perceptions of prison instructors. Very
Hmm.
interesting article to read. And another one, Providing Hope After Trauma. educating in a juvenile residential center. And then the final one, the need in corrections education for comprehensive teacher training. All
Mm.
interesting articles. And I encourage those who believe that someone who has made serious mistakes cannot be transformed. Check the surveys, read these articles, do your own research on how lives that have been impacted negatively are transformed, not because of the prison system, but it is a mindset.
Yes.
One having a purpose and recognizing their values to themselves that has brought about that change. I saw an article today that says, prison didn't change me. Very interesting article.
Mm.
I'm encouraging everyone who would like open their hearts and job opportunities to the employers with organizations who are short staffed right now. Think about giving another chance to someone who truly needs it. I'm appealing to you. Open your heart and your doors to someone, giving them another chance because they need to be employed and you need employees. And I'll just share one final story. In the summer of, could have been 15 or 16, the Society for Human Resource Management featured this story in one of their summer articles about a young man who had robbed a bank. And this guy, he served his time. And guess what? After he educated himself, he was employed by a bank. And
Oh.
the HR manager wrote the article. And she said he was an excellent worker. This young man did so well. She said we didn't want to let go of him, but he had a better opportunity and we could not hold him back from that. And that was how they part ways from that bank. Give someone another chance. You never know. That may just be your most loyal employee. That may be your most committed employee. That may be your best performer. Give someone a chance. Someone who made a mistake some time ago, give them another chance. And I leave on that note. And for those who are being released from prison or you're being released from a job, remember you were released to shine.